Not all stories are chronological, especially when considering the tale of Quentin Tarantino. As far as adaptations go, this one has a cherry on top. Based on the novel Rum Punch by Elmore Leonard, Quentin Tarantino rode the success of Pulp Fiction to bring a distinctly Floridian crime caper to the City of Angels, with Samuel L. Jackson returning, Michael Keaton playing ATF agent Ray Nicolette, and a cast rounded out by film legends Robert De Niro, Robert Forster, and Pam Grier. This week we are going to absolutely positively blow away every other mother in the room with Jackie Brown. The Phantasmagorium proudly presents Bullets, Babes, and Blades. Strike that, reverse
Nope.
it. I am Scotty R37. Kat is on brain detail. We are overjoyed to have Ben from Cinema Gulp with us, and Steve is getting baked with Melanie.
Why can't
What's
I
going
be
on, guys?
Brain detail.
Yeah.
You want to clean up the back seat?
And the show's called Bullets, Blades, and Babes.
No, I miswrote it.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm a professional, sir. Thank you.
Nice.
And this is an event because with four of us on, it's been a long time since we've had a true film discussion with such knowledgeable individuals. And I'm happy to have everyone here, especially you, Cinema Gulp.
Oh,
Yeah, it's nice. I do believe this is the first time you've been on the show proper. You were on with Turye and Cult Classic Movie Corner, correct?
Yeah.
Session 9, one of my favorite unsung movies.
yeah, that was the one and only time, I think. But that was awesome. That was fun.
Yeah, it's cool. Good to have you.
Thanks.
Well, and let's start off with how many times has everybody seen Jackie Brown? One of the black sheep of the Tarantino oeuvre, as many people are concerned. Ben, how many times have you seen it?
I'm gonna be ambitious and say I probably have seen it the most, only because it was a Tarantino movie I rediscovered about 8 years after it came out when I was in film school, and you start latching onto sort of the outliers of directors, and you start branching out and going like, God, wasn't that one good? Why did people not like that one as much? So when I went back to that one in college, I watched it like every night. Like I just completely got attached to it and I couldn't stop watching it. And we'll get into why as we talk, but
Yeah, for sure.
so the answer is too many to count for sure.
Yeah,
But a lot.
I am sort of in the same boat, not in terms of the film school. I don't know your truth. But no, I think when I first moved out of my parents' house and I started amassing my DVD collection, I started with Pulp Fiction or with Tarantino flicks. And I was like, Jackie Brown, I never even saw that one. Bought it blind. And I think for an entire summer, it was on at least every 48 hours. It is just a glorious hangout movie. Watching it again today, I would put it almost on par with Lebowski as something that just makes me happy to have it on and around me.
Yeah.
And
many
it's
times?
fantastic. Again, like once every 2 days for 3 months to start
many
off
times to
with.
count.
And yeah, too many times to count. The soundtrack was on cassette in my Pontiac. So
Nice.
yeah, I've seen it too many times.
Yeah.
I've probably seen this movie about 10 times. So just about
I saw it for the first time today.
And that's what really excites me.
yeah.
That's awesome. I'm dying to know what you think. Yeah, that's great. I mean, are we freeforming?
Yeah.
Because Kat, like, you're a Tarantino fan, right?
Yeah.
And you hadn't seen this one. Was there a reason why?
It wasn't on TV, and it's not something I ever really saw for all of my physical media hunting in stores. And it was just out of sight, out of mind. I've seen some of the films this is inspired by. Foxy Brown, Coffee. We watched that in film school for film theory class, which is fantastic. Also, Pam Grier.
Yep.
So I just never got around to it until today for this series. And
See, wait, guys, this movie definitely takes more than one viewing to really get what makes it special, I think. And I'm not discrediting you, Kat, but I think I felt the same way I first saw it. When I first saw it.
Having seen those other films I just mentioned that it was inspired by, those ones were really zany, really fun, really crazy out of the gate. Like if you've seen those films, they're amazing. This just felt like, okay, you got Pam Grier from those blaxploitation films, but I felt like for the plot is kind of like your standard Saturday afternoon crime movie TV type plot.
Well, it's an Elmore Leonard story. Yeah.
Yeah, Elmore Leonard's story. I didn't think the dialogue was as sharp as Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction for Tarantino, and it didn't start feeling like a Tarantino movie until he started, messing with the time going back and forth towards the ending. So the first hour, 40 minutes kind of goes by at this leisurely pace, and I was still interested in watching it, but I felt as muted while watching this movie as the Robert De Niro character. And I'm like, why did they get Robert De Niro for this? Because he's just kind of sitting around doing it kind of muted the whole time. And it's like, okay. I started getting into it a little bit more toward the climax, but I'm like, man, this pales in comparison to films like Coffee and Foxy Brown, or even when Scott and I reviewed Live and Let Die for Martinis, Gadgets, and Guns, we were making note of, even though the fact that film was written and directed by white people, it still feels like a genuine blaxploitation film because of how zany and crazy and silly it all is, and how over the top it is, which is kind of what Coffee and Foxy Brown felt like, or what they alluded to in the recent Netflix film with Eddie Murphy, Dolomite Is My Name, talking about that character and all the craziness there and how 70s it feels. And granted, this isn't 70s, it's 90s, and it's not trying to say it takes place in the 70s or anything like that.
And it's actually not trying to be a blaxploitation film.
Right.
I think a lot of people
there were a couple times in the film where Pam Grier kind of gives you flashes of when she played Coffee, and it's like, there she is. But because it's a true ensemble, I find that certain characters don't get as much attention as others, and I don't know, it just didn't and it felt way too long for what it is. I mean, it didn't have that shock type scenes that you get in both Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction. It was just sort of, okay, Elmore Leonard.
I think that was his point, and being the type of director Tarantino came out of the gate as, call it like his crime trilogy, right? Because he did 3 crime, and then he kind of went off the rails and did all kinds of strange, interesting, ambitious work. If you consider Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, and this one sort of a crime trilogy, this is the muted risk that he took by not going over the top with certain aspects. I still find there's some pretty good awe moments in this, but it's a mature, sensitive, personal movie about getting older, and that if you didn't excel the way you thought you might, but it's never too late to do that if you break conventional molds on how to get the things that you want, like breaking the law.
I could kind of see that with like the Max Cherry character, especially. I kind of wish they spent a little bit more time on him. But even as it was getting
great, he's a great character.
Yeah,
he's a fucking great character.
Even as it was getting into the climax, I didn't feel the suspense ever really kick up into high gear. I was kind of waiting for the movie to take off, not take off in terms of pace, but in terms of my investment and excitement in the story, and I just never really got there. I was like,
if you take a director like Soderbergh, who took an Elmore Leonard story and amped it up a lot with its editing and its use of music, and it made it more of a thriller, where I think Scotty was right. This one's intentionally sort of a hangout movie with sort of a caper going on, and the caper's important, and it's really talked about and lets the audience know what's going on. But I do think the first time I watched it, I fell more into watching the hangout scenes than actually understanding what the caper was and what everybody's place was. That's probably why I watched it.
Dialogue felt very natural, and
to me, there's the 2 strongest parts of this film are the dialogue and the soundtrack. The dialogue, I think, it was great. The delivery of the dialogue is even better.
Well, I think
the soundtrack is phenomenal.
This is the first time that it's been sort of come up in the 3 films that you and I have watched, Kat, but this is the first time that we can discuss the liberal peppering of the hard R N-word.
I didn't feel that at all in this movie, strangely. I mean, I knew
really?
No, I mean,
I think Samuel L. says it 3 times in one sentence.
Yeah. I knew that was a controversy about this movie. The only time where it felt excessive was in the scene when he's talking to Chris Tucker in the beginning, because it didn't feel natural that he would use it as many times in that scene, given the context of how they were using it. It just felt a little bit like, that's a little much. But but the rest of the movie, I didn't really feel bothered by it or whatever. But I meant the one scene that I really did get invested in is when, after the whole handoff, when Lewis and Ordell are driving down the road and he asks him to pull over. I'm like, don't do it, man. You know better than that. And he pulls over. I'm like, you fucking idiot. Good. You know, it's just. And at first I thought he was going to get out of it because Ordell thinks about it and realizes, Jackie's the one who screwed me. like, oh, he's gonna get out of it, and then like a dumbass, he opens his mouth. He's like, well, this bail bondsman was there. I'm like, oh god, you're done. But I then I was expecting stuff. I was really shocked though when he pulled the gun and shot Melanie. I'm like, oh jeez, that was kind of a great
that's
moment.
Your holy shit moment for sure.
And I knew she had to be dead because when he shoots her the first time, you could tell he shoots her in the stomach, but she doesn't even make a sound. And then he shoots her again, and it's like, okay, she's done. Yeah. But those two moments I thought were quite good. I really liked Michael Keaton in this, but he's not in it enough. And I like that they gave even Tiny Lister a bit role in the movie.
Ray Nicolette is a reoccurring character throughout Elmore Leonard books, and he also shows up in Out of Sight, the movie.
Yeah.
And one of the funniest lines in that movie where the great Dennis Farina looks at him while he's wearing an FBI shirt and says, hey, do they have those that say undercover?
And I love the reaction. He's just like, no. It's so good. And I do sometimes, if I'm feeling saucy, I'll do those as a double feature. But I enjoy the leisurely pace, and I think that's the standout scene. Like the caper, as Ben said, it's a bunch of characters that you're getting to know through the course of their environments and how they've dealt with their lives. And oh my stars, what is her name? That Fonda lady,
Bridget.
Oh, Bridget.
Yeah. Bridget Fonda, I didn't mention in the intro, but Melanie has always been, like, whenever I get baked, she does eventually pop into my head at one point and say, it's good to cough. It's good to cough. It draws in smoke.
She likes Metrex. Hear her munchies with Metrex.
But, I think it is sort of underwhelming, as you say, in terms of Pam Grier's performance, just as we see her start off, enter frame with across 110th Street, and it's a stewardess, flight attendant, what have you. It's a Tarantino movie, so I'm going to say stewardess. I think they call her a stewardess in the film, so my nomenclature is accurate. But yeah, and I think you're introduced to a non-assuming person headed to work, and even the opening titles, as they progress, she's late. And so she's got to make it to work, and she starts running, and it's like, what is she? No, she's just going to work. And it's that kind of day-to-day mundanity. And then right after that, you get Samuel L. Jackson reuniting with Lewis, and they're watching the gun running. And you're getting set up with all this stuff in just mundane tasks.
Yeah, it kind of jumps from one long conversation to a next for a little bit to establish, because, then we jump straight to Max Cherry. But, Scotty, I personally think Jackie Brown is the most human character that Tarantino's ever had in one of his movies as a lead character, as somebody who, like I said, kind of like what I was talking about with this movie and what this book is about. She's that person. You can almost take her from the Foxy Brown or the Coffee personality and be like, what would that be like at 44? And kind of missed a lot of good opportunities because of jail time or whatever. And she's lucky to be settling in this little existence that she has. But Pam Grier does such a great job with her facial expressions, or like kind of lack thereof, and just her like self-deprecating humor when Cherry is telling her how good she looks. She's got to go right back at him with something bad about herself, like she has that. I mean, which I'm sure not just women, but people in general, when they get to a certain age, they just start to see themselves in negative light. And she's perfect. She does such a good job. It's understated, sure, but I think it's exactly what it's supposed to be. Instead, like Kat's like, you're right, Kat, it wasn't this explosive Pam Grier performance. I think that was maybe the point, was so dialed back.
I liked her character. I just felt that she wasn't really in much of the movie. I felt almost like Sam Jackson was the main character for the sheer amount of screen time he has.
I think he kind of
for a while she disappears for these big chunks, and it's kind of going on with these guys. I'm like, let's get back to Jackie. She's more interesting because, like you said, she is the most human, most normal person for a lead character in any of his 9 movies so far, easily.
But I think that's also
a movie with Ordell and Baymont, just the two of them on a road trip.
A prequel. It'll be lovely. And that scene between Chris Tucker and Samuel L., like, that was fantastic, just in terms of, and apparently there was a bit of riffing going on set, as you would imagine, with Chris Tucker. And there is a point that was pointed out, I think, in an interview with Samuel L. Jackson, where he's like, yeah, no, he almost made me laugh. I almost fucked up the entire scene. And like, it was stuff that is off the cuff and funny. And I really, it endeared me. I think this is the first time that I had ever really seen Chris Tucker. And I was like, okay. And it drew me to his other comedic roles and The Fifth Element.
He's so good in this. Just,
Yeah.
I want to help you, man, but I don't want to be stuck in the trunk of no goddamn car. Like, it's so good.
You can throw somebody off guard with this shit.
Yeah.
Like and that's what it's quotable. And also just in back to with Jackie Brown, like she isn't there because a lot of the time when she's not on screen, she's working, which
Yeah.
I always made it as such a, like, again, part of that hangout feel. You can't hang out with someone who's working. Luckily, you can hang out with Ordell.
I can't imagine Cabo Airlines could only pay someone $16,000 a year, even in 1997.
I don't know.
But
It's the benefits. It's the benefits.
The benefits. Right.
a shout out to Sid Haig as the judge.
For sure.
Right. It was
Awesome.
nice. I'd forgotten. I did a rewatch. I like everybody else, and I'd forgotten that he was in this movie.
Yeah.
Even as many times I've seen it, it's just, I mean, it's not a big part. He plays a judge in one scene, but
No, that's fine. Denise Crosby from Star Trek The Next Generation plays the defense lawyer in the same scene. So you have Pam Grier, Denise Crosby, and Sid Haig. Courtroom drama. I'm in. I'm down.
You think you want to know what I really think it was that did it for me in film school with this movie was, I mean, my concentration in my major was editing. And if you just even think you like editing, you just levitate towards Sally Menke because she was one of the best. And to me, this is my favorite Sally Menke edited QT movie. It's more subtle, but it succeeds because of the subtlety and like the way she plays with split screens instead of the traditional juxtaposed back and forth. That's why he loved her, because that probably wasn't a QT idea. Like Max Cherry finding his gun gone right when Jackie pulls it on Ordell, like that was probably her decision. Because they shot those scenes separately, but she decided to split it at that reveal. And I love those little touches. And like Kat said, the end where you see the different perspectives of the caper, it's that stuff's the QT stuff in it, but it's so well done in this movie. So as much as you could look at a Kill Bill or a Pulp Fiction and be like, those are so well edited, they are, but they're the more showy, hey, look at the editing. Whereas this one's so low key. Oops.
Subtlety, yeah. It's awesome. There's also there's a shot that I love in this movie where it's when Baymon's gonna die. He gets into the trunk, right? And the car, he takes off in the car, and the camera tracks just over the fence to where they pull back around to where where Adele's gonna do the deed. That shot is beautiful, and I remember sitting in the theater. I saw this for the first time in the theater.
I did too.
And I remember sitting in the theater going, "Oh man, that shot's beautiful, man! How do you do that?" It was cool.
Well, and I was noting those tracking and pans and stuff.
A lot of shots like that in movies. Either that, or just I hadn't noticed it, right, until this movie. That was really.
I really like the shot when Lewis and Melanie have left the mall, and you'll notice it starts out kind of widescreen and far away, and through each successive shot, the camera gradually is getting closer and closer and closer until he finally. It's so close when he pulls out the gun and shoots that you can't even see her really get shot because she's kind of almost out of frame at that point because it just wants you to like bearing down on it. And I love how it just kind of gradually does that as it's building the tension of him just getting more and more frustrated.
And all of those scenes you guys mentioned are just lit up to a different level and a different emotional feel because I think he picked the best music in this movie I love all QT soundtracks. This is my favorite.
This is my favorite.
Yeah, and it brings them into the world too. Like when she's listening to Delphonics and he's like, who's this? Beautiful scene, by the way. I love Max's and Jackie's little sweet relationship. It's very good. But the soundtrack, like you said, Steve, for this one, it's perfect, and it does give you a feel that it's going to be kind of one of those blaxploitation, and it never goes there as a movie. Right. But I think QT has even said this is the music he loves the most that he threw into it. So,
well, as somebody who actually spent time in those cities in that time frame, it's what you heard on the street when you were walking down the street. It was the sound that buzzed through Compton and Hawthorne and Long Beach.
Well, and you guys are all from California. I'm sure you've made trips to Los Angeles. I am but a lowly Ontarian. And so it's kind of interesting for me. I was watching it through the prism of this is actually a really good, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but a representation of Los Angeles at the time in terms of not so much flashy landmarks, but there is a geography to it. There are titles for the neighborhoods that he's in and the cities and towns surrounding and whatnot. And I thought it was
Carson and Hawthorne and Compton. Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
it's all South Central right there. It's a
Hawthorne is Max's. Yeah. Or Hawthorne's where Jackie lives. Carson is where Max works.
Where is it again? Where the beach apartment or whatever that Ordell has?
Is this
Is it
supposed to
Hermo-
be Malibu? It's not supposed to be Malibu, right? Is it
No,
I
supposed
thought it was Hermosa Beach.
Hermosa. It looked more like Hermosa. Yeah.
Yeah, because it looks at first when you always see outside the window, it's like the beach is there. You figure there's a street, and then when he and Jackie are leaving, it almost looks like it's deeper into the city a little bit.
Yeah.
When you're seeing all the structure of the streets behind it, so I was like, oh man, are they actually there or not? Couldn't tell.
It's funny that Ordell is he's so proud of himself as this entrepreneur, and he rolls like he's, a kingpin. And so he's got, I love it too. Like just it's gotta have been intentional. He has this beach house, but from what you can see, you only really see it in this one direction, and it's kind of small, right? It's very small, but in the area that it is, that's probably $1 million place.
Oh, easily.
And that's the funniest thing about it, that he's just like, yeah, man, I'm a gun runner. Look at my beach house, but it's just like it's not a studio, but it's like a tiny, it's a place you see
I
in
stayed in a place
Oceanside.
just like that back in October at a timeshare down in Carlsbad, right up front beach kind of thing with the upper level. And yeah, they're really expensive, but I also like like you mentioned, he thinks he's such a kingpin guy, and even Lewis can see, why are you keeping Melanie around? She's so annoying and all this. He's like, yeah, well, and he's trying to justify it, and then he tells him about Sharonda. Oh yeah, I told her that come out with me to Hollywood. I took her to Compton. She doesn't know the difference, but hey, it's the closest she's ever been there.
I love the way he describes it too. She came off the bus. Country is a chicken coop,
yeah.
and it was just I thought that was so tight. The descriptions and also the friendship that was going on between Ordell and Lewis. Like it is like he was 4 days out of jail and Lewis came to crash with him, and it's like, you want to work? It's almost the same thing as what happens with Vic Vega in Reservoir Dogs when he comes back to Joe, and it's just like, well, do you want to work? Do you have a parole officer? And it's not that, but it's just sort of like, all right, here's what we're doing.
Yeah,
you want to help?
He owes him one, and he trusts him completely. As much as a sleazeball like Ordell can trust anyone.
Sure.
But he does seem to be the only person that he does sort of trust and tell the truth to.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's also the arrival of Lewis on the scene is part of the reason why, Beaumont kind of had to go also for the fact that he was going to sing like a canary. But like that relationship was so good throughout until the final moment when Lewis finds out that Melanie's staying, and he's like, I don't even know what you're doing that. And then at the end, when it's like, Lewis, you didn't recognize the bail bondsman?
Yeah, he's like, you're not the guy I remember. You're sloppy as fuck.
Exactly. And that's what I like. And that's the thing. And I think that when I was watching it the first little while, and it's interesting that there's still things that I'm picking up from it, but it's just like, oh, it wasn't just because he lost the money. Because again, I wasn't really paying attention to the banter and the dialogue of the heist. It was more funny for me, or more entertaining, to see the burgeoning romance between Max and Jackie. Like, I think that's one of the most mature relationships put to film ever.
Yeah, same here. All the relationships in this movie are like that. Like I said, even Ordell and Lewis, like it's complicated, but it's kind of great. I mean, I've never read the book. I know that Elmore Leonard, this is a fun fact. Elmore Leonard actually says it's his favorite adaptation of one of his books, and he says it's his favorite Tarantino movie. But Tarantino specifically did not want to screw this up doing his very first, and I think only, adaptation because of how hell-bent he was on what they did to his Natural Born Killers script. So he's like, I don't ever want to do that to somebody and butcher their original story. So he stayed pretty faithful to it from what Elmore Leonard had said. So,
well,
and God rest Elmore Leonard. He's been dead for 9 years next month. So
heavens, yes, rest his soul.
I didn't, but I mean, I like the acting and the back and forth and the chemistry between Max and Jackie, but I felt that happens really fast too. He just kind of, okay, I'm into it. Like they have this scene, which is my favorite joke in the movie, when he's telling her about how he's reconsidered his life, and it's like this really poignant scene, and she's getting the really connection. And she's like, "Well, when did you come to this conclusion?" And he's like, "Last Thursday." Thursday. And then you have the flash of her getting out of jail. It's like, when I got out of jail? He's like, "Yeah." And then he tells her the story about how, he went to go pick up a guy and he was waiting for him with his stun gun or whatever. He's like, "Yeah, I decided, what am I doing this crap for, And I like that. And on the one hand, it made sense to me why he didn't go off with her in the end when she invites him to Madrid. And then on the other hand,
what is that? How does that make sense? I'm curious, because I've always been upset by that.
I mean, it is upsetting, but I didn't buy. And I guess he had a good poignant connection with somebody, but I didn't buy that meant he wanted to spend the rest of his life with her or go away. Because clearly he's probably not going to see her again.
Do you think he was just too, through everything he said and how carefree he seems to be, he's still too comfortable to leave? He doesn't have it in him to go off and try something completely different in his life that would steer it in a completely different direction. So I don't know if it was her as much as it was him just going, well, this is all I know how to do. I don't know, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of different ways you could look at it, supposedly.
Well, and there are. I found it really interesting, and it's something that grabbed me. Probably within the first couple times, is that there is a moment as Max Cherry is walking out of picture, and it all gets out of focus, and you see him regret the decision instantly. Like, he excuses himself from the phone call, and it looks like he's just doing one of these.
Yeah.
As in, what the fuck did I just do? And I always took that as heartbreaking, and I always felt that when she was driving away and singing across 110th Street, like, she's sad that they can't go together because he won't go or wouldn't accept the offer. She didn't really, she didn't throw money at him. But then she starts thinking about what's going on in the future, and then she gets sad again at the end, right before cut to black. But yeah. I just thought it was a very succinct way of watching two people who really want to be together, just they're not. And that's the way it is sometimes. And it's heartbreaking, but also, again, one of the most mature romances that I had seen in modern cinema.
Yeah, exactly.
But I found that, and I don't want to say directorial or editor, or I don't know all the different. I've never been to film school. I only watch them on TV, and I don't know what the flourishes are, and who's responsible for what. But I really found just shot composition, the patience with it, the panning, as Steve said, seeing Ordell Robbie take Beaumont to kill him, and there is a flourish there that I almost thought of as being, is this Kubrickian? That it is such a flourish of the film that you can be like, you don't even have to have seen the film before. But Kat, you were saying that you didn't really feel it got into Tarantinoville until we get to the mall.
Yeah, once they start he does this classic, shifting things out of chronology. Even though some of the sharper dialogue was there earlier as well, like with Melanie and Lewis in the apartment. But it's like, again, I feel like the movie, it has this nice hangout, leisurely type pace to it. It's like I would have rather spent more time with Max and Jackie, because that's the romance they're trying to sell you on.
Yeah.
And yeah, I felt there's a lot of time with Ordell. I didn't buy that he would have been dumb enough to call Max and tell him his threat, because, well, the guy's a bail bondsman. What makes you think he isn't just going to call the cops to settle this? Because he can make up any story he wants for why he has any aspect of the money, which of course he does. Just why they
and
get
he
away
has
with
a
it.
lot of credibility with the cops when they interact with him. He's
right. And Ordell didn't seem to know that, or he didn't even seem to consider it, which I thought, I'm like, Ordell, what are you doing? Just walking in there. I'm like, he's done.
Well, he's kind of an idiot. Ordell's kind of an idiot. He thinks he's really smart, but he's like a bulldog. Like, he'll kill, what's his name? He'll kill Beaumont, but he's pretty dumb.
I thought it was funny also that Tiny Lister just had a baseball bat, and then everybody else has got their guns out, and he just walks in with a bat. Beat the guy.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he pops him.
Scotty, you were talking about how it reminded you a little Kubrick in there. I remember looking, because you're watching so many movies at the same time back in when you're in film school and stuff. I remember seeing, especially that opening scene and so many scenes, because when people say like this isn't as Tarantino until later or whatever, but the subtleties of Tarantino have a lot of Mike Nichols. Like The Graduate is so full of holding on something and watching the person shift and move and change facial expression so many different times, and tracking shots or just complete establishing shots. And this is like definitely the first Tarantino movie that did that, because Reservoir Dogs is cut so manic. There's a little bit of that in Pulp Fiction, but this one, there's a ton of it in there. And again, that's a lot of Sally Mankey, but that's also
cinematography as well.
Cinematography, yeah.
So I always try and bring up Sally Mankey, because I know there is going to be a time when she's not going to be editing the Tarantino films that we review. Sadly, what was her last one? Was Inglourious Basterds?
Inglourious Basterds, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why everyone's sense is over 3 hours long.
Well, yeah, good point. But yeah, I'm trying to, the usual suspects, like with Lawrence Bender producing, and also, there's a Harvey that shows up every now and then, but whatever. It was the 90s.
You couldn't avoid it. You had to make movies. That was pretty much your only way. And, so here's the keys to hell that'll take you to heaven.
It's like telling young people about leaded gasoline.
Band Apart had a deal with Miramax. I mean, that,
yeah,
that was 90s, and that's what they did. They made movies for Miramax.
So I just found this out today, but the casting director of this movie's name is Jackie Brown, only spelled J-A-K-I. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I noticed. I thought that was kind of a neat thing. Yeah.
Interesting. Another little tidbit is that Robert Forster. This is what I heard, that Tarantino met Robert in a restaurant, threw him the script, and said something to the effect that you're going to do this, and that's all there is to it. And of course,
he was perfect in it.
Of course, right at that time, Forster had a career slump. So
huge slump
really brought him back to the forefront.
He was gone, for probably 10 years, but he got to be a part of that long-lasting streak that's still going on today. If you are the supporting actor in a Tarantino movie, you're at least going to get an Oscar nomination.
Yeah,
right.
He writes his second characters better than everybody else. It happened with Samuel first. I mean, everybody that gets a supporting role ends up with something in a Tarantino movie. I was glad Forrester got a nomination. I knew he wasn't going to win that year, but it was good that he got a nomination.
Yeah,
that was a tough year, man.
Mm-hmm.
That was the disappointment and Robin Williams Good Will Hunting year.
But I thought that the Oscar, again, just with a subtle performance, Pam Grier, I thought that she did so well in just a broad range, and I wasn't familiar really with the blaxploitation movies until after the fact, and so I thought, I was like, so I'm attracted to middle-aged black women. Okay, neat.
I've always been attracted to Pam Grier, man.
Black women.
She was in Escape from L.A. the year before this, and she played like a transvestite gang leader.
Yep,
she was so hot in that movie.
What was it, Texas Bob or something like that?
Anyway. Something like that.
So this is pretty crazy. Here are the numbers for the movie. Box office. The estimated budget was $12 million. Gross U.S. and Canada $39.6 million. Opening weekend in the U.S. and Canada $9.2 million. December 28, 1997. Gross worldwide was $39.6 million. Isn't that crazy?
Well, it's insane.
Movies were not moneymakers until Inglourious Basterds.
Yeah,
really.
And there was a lot of
super popular movies, though.
I suppose there was a little bit of again, sort of a drop off between Pulp Fiction and Jackie Brown, because everyone was expecting to get their mind blown again. And I think it was either on an interview or an audio commentary where Quentin Tarantino specifically said, I'm not going to blow your mind every time. Let's just chill. I'll blow your mind next time, which I think is kind of funny considering the song that he chose with the Delphonics. But I think that it's a nice sort of denouement for a career. And when you look back, I think this is the first one that says like the third movie by Quentin Tarantino or something, like when he introduced that, and it's like, you're numbering these? Why?
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until you get to like Kill Bill, and it's like, no, I'm stopping at 10. It's over. We'll see.
Tarantino also makes a
Kill Bill
quasi
is two
cameo.
separate movies, whether he likes it or not. So he's already at 10.
That's untrue. If you watch my cut, it's one.
Sure.
I have had the pleasure of viewing this cut. It is good.
Tarantino makes a quasi cameo in this film.
Really?
Yes,
Yeah.
Did I
He's
miss
voiced
that, or
the
did I forget that?
Was it a voiceover?
The
Oh.
voice of the answering machine.
Okay.
That's
Joel,
Well,
can you call me back, please? Like, yeah, it's probably like the most obnoxious answering machine message ever.
No Buscemi in this one.
No.
We
He
get a
didn't really end up becoming a Tarantino player. He did the first two and then nothing.
That's
He didn't-
true.
Never went back to him. I don't know why.
Can't remember
what?
playing the second one.
He was
Buddy Holly, the waiter in Pulp Fiction. So he didn't get much, but he was there.
Right.
But he was, arguably the best character in Reservoir Dogs. I mean, at least in my taste. So
I'm a big fan of Mr. Orange. What can I say?
they're all good characters in that movie. They're all good.
No. It's. But also, is there a certain level of expectation going in, not just to have your mind blown by a Quentin Tarantino movie, but right after Pulp Fiction, and was Travolta nominated for an Oscar for that or no?
Yeah, he was.
Yes.
And so that was like a huge career resurgence as well. And with Robert Forster and Pam Grier, I think more so he was intending Pam Grier to be the breakout Tarantino of that movie. I always lean towards Robert. Yeah. So
Forster did a lot of work after that.
I've seen Supernova.
Right.
With Lou Diamond Phillips. You've never seen it? Never mind.
And I think he even said at one point he just wanted to work with De Niro. He didn't specifically be like, oh, I see De Niro in Lewis. He just wanted to work with him, and that was one of the parts they had. And I think, to me, I love watching De Niro when he does something off, where he's not so confident or crazy. I love him in this movie. He's like a lost puppy dog. He he's very unsure of himself, and he doesn't know what to do, and he kind of just ends up getting high. You guys are a couple of Cheech and Chongs over here. And like, I love he spends most of the time in the house with Melody, and then he just gets he's way too out of his element because of how long he'd spent in prison. It's too much for him, this heist. And that's why he kind of just loses his shit on Melody. Because, well, one, she's being irritating. But two is just, he's just a little bit, it's too much, you know? So I think I kind of love him in this because it's different. Like right before this, he was in like Heat and I think Ronin, where he's just a total beast, badass, you know? So seeing him in this, just kind of squirrely, and I don't know, it was great.
It is. But, and again, I think it just sort of fits as to why it's somewhat overlooked, is that it was kind of a thing where everybody was like, the only people who were really expected to do anything were Quentin Tarantino. And there's a lot of, what I'm saying is that there's a lot of context of its time as to why it may be the black sheep and the overlooked one, is just because it's, there was a lot of expectations.
It's all expectations.
Yeah, it's all expectations. And
you hear Robert De Niro is going to be in a Tarantino movie. You're already thinking mob boss. He's going to be a crazy mob boss with amazing dialogue and super sinister. And you just get a stoner loser who just got out of prison who sits on the couch most of the movie. Yeah,
it was very much against type. And then, like I agreed. And so, and then with a bunch of people that you don't know, Batman's in it. He's barely in it. And then like. So I think that at the time, but I'm taken by the soundtrack. Just I love the book ending with 110th Street. And also I found this was interesting because I don't remember if there was sort of a score behind Pulp Fiction or if all the music was interstitial.
There was no score.
Yeah.
Right. And with this one, I was like, oh, we're getting a score now. So it is a little bit, there are tweaks, because even with Reservoir Dogs, no score, just interstitial music. And so it is an evolution. what followed up? Jackie Brown? Was it Kill Bill?
Well, Kill Bill was his next official movie, but I think he did a bunch of side things in between. I can't remember.
Oh, we're gonna cover some of those.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, I think Kill Bill was his first, and it was a long time later. It's like 6.5 years later.
Yeah, so it's. I think it has a legacy. Time has been really, really kind to it.
Yep, I agree. I think it's great. I think it's a great rewatch, and as far as Tarantino movies go, it's top tier for me. It's up there. I keep switching it. It's in third, and then it's in fourth. It keeps going back and forth. But after this rewatch again, I'm like, you know what? I'm bumping it above Reservoir Dogs today.
Oh, well, are we gonna go to the rankings and then hit up the chat?
Yeah, we can do that.
I'm just thinking if there's anything that anybody else wants to add, I just really wanted to talk about it. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. Especially when
it was leisurely, but I didn't feel it was a hangout movie for me because you still do kind of have to pay attention to what they're talking about to follow the plot. Whereas with most hangout movies, you kind of can tune out and just kind of hang, like the title.
By your third or fourth time of watching it, it then becomes a hangout movie because you know what's happening, and you can just be like, you know what, I'm going to make a screwdriver and drink with Ordell today. I'm going to make myself a screwdriver and watch Jackie Brown.
Exactly. Oh, chicks with guns.
Oh, by the way, a big shout out to Michael Bowen, who is Ray Nicholas' partner in this, who's just a total creep and says some awful things to Jackie, but that guy's always so good at that stuff.
I did enjoy that sort of dynamic, and well, he played.
Didn't set the world on fire, huh, Jackie?
That's something else. Where was it Ordell who warned Jackie that be careful, this cop might not be buying what you're selling. He probably knows, and he's just pretending that he doesn't. It's like a little tease, but they don't end up knowing because they're oblivious to the fact that there's another $500,000.
Yeah, those guys are up pretty easy.
Well, and also, that's the thing, is that you're introduced to Jackie as just sort of an unassuming stewardess late for work, and she's been around the world a couple of times. She's dealt with some shit. She knows how to deal with manipulative men. She knows where to get a gun if she needs it in a pinch. I thought it was completely believable and awesome, just the way that she conducted herself. And I did enjoy her relationship with Officer Dargis. And when it's like, you didn't ask me permission if you could smoke in here. And she's like, well, may I smoke? No, you may not.
No, you may not.
Then the next time you see them together, it's like, oh, may I smoke? Yes, please, of course. Help yourself.
Yeah, because she's giving up all the shit.
Yeah.
Cooperating.
Little touches like that, like Lewis sitting there rocking back and forth, listening to the lady sing "Baby Love."
So Ray Nicolette is actually the thread that links Jackie Brown with Out of Sight.
That's what we
True.
said. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's that reoccurring Fed in Elmore Leonard's stories. Yeah, he's only in that one scene in Out of Sight, but it's really funny. Yeah,
And if I'm not mistaken, they do explain how he transitioned or that he left the ATF and joined the FBI, right?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah.
I can't remember the scene verbatim, but yeah.
it was something like that. Also, interesting fun fact about Out of Sight: there was a spin-off Karen Cisco television show,
Yep.
and in that television show, the Dennis Farina character was played by Robert Forster.
Yeah.
I watched a little bit of that. Karen Cisco is played by I always forget how to say her name.
Carla Gugino?
Carla Gugino. Yeah. Yeah, she was great. That was actually a pretty good show.
Yeah, I was disappointed when it got canceled. I watched the first 2 or 3 episodes, and then it was just got lost.
And that's my all-time favorite Jennifer Lopez performance in Out of Sight.
Mine too.
Yeah,
That
it's
is the
crazy
correct
because
answer.
It was so early in her acting career, but it was just done so well. So anyway, wrong movie.
Yeah.
Same universe, though. It's okay. We can cross-pollinate.
Technically, yeah.
Michael Keaton. All right, should we jump to the chat?
Were we going to rate?
Oh, we can do that. Let's do that.
If we want to do the bullets, I don't know. I suppose I'll go first because I want to. Jackie Brown, I'm giving it a 9. out of 10. 9 bullets.
Nice.
Steve?
I give it I give it an 8.5 back in the day. After many rewatches, I'm still there. It hasn't moved up or down. I think it's a solid 8.5 bullets or 8.5 bullets.
Sweet. Cat?
Six and a half. 6.5 bullets.
6.5 bullets.
Or actually, no, make it 6. Make it 6.
Oh,
I gave Reservoir Dogs 7, so I got to give this one a 6.
you're the doc. And Ben.
I got to go 9 gulps. Or wait, what did we?
No, 9 gulps.
Bullets.
Gulp 9 bullets.
Yeah, I got to go 9 bullets straight up right there. It's just, it's not 100% flawless, but it's such a perfect movie for what I only rate movies on how I like them, which is what everybody should do. Yeah, that's not how other people are going to like them, but it's perfect. It's semi-perfect for me. So 9.
Well, I think that if you're in for a relaxed paced movie that does have high points and you're interested in characters and dialogue and the interactions of these are the tales of the city and this is only one of them kind of thing.
Yeah.
It really is. It is a good, it feels like you're binging a season of television and it only takes 2.5 hours.
And, can I say something about this movie before you jump to something else? Just kind of my closing thoughts on this movie. And I think you guys will all agree with this. I think one of my soft spots, one of the things that warms me about this movie is that I think we did think in the mid to late 90s we were going to continue to get, and yes, Tarantino kept everything in sort of this weird universe where you have, you have your Lee Donowitz and Joubert Donowitz, and then you have your Red Apples. Things are interconnected, but I think if you wanted to get this big anthology of crime capers across America or even internationally, this was the last one. This is the last Tarantino movie that was a crime story that actually took place in present day. Like you can say that, the Kill Bill movies, they don't say when they're supposed to take place, but obviously they're just a fantasy version of the year they came out.
Right.
But after that, it was all period stuff. Even Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which I would say is the closest in maturity to this movie as far as subtleness. I think this movie was the last one where I was like, okay, this is what Tarantino is going to be. And then when he gave us Kill Bill, you're like, oh, wait, he's doing something completely different. Those movies grew on me, but I was kind of upset when it first started getting talked about that he was doing a Kung Fu action movie. I was like, no, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously they turned out great. But this one, I think it holds that spot for me so much because it was sort of the last of those, the crime capers in the present day of Tarantino. So just wanted to get that out,
Right.
Well, and you're absolutely correct. And it also sort of came at the same era of all of those crime novel adaptation movies. And so, no.
You can even throw True Romance in there. True Romance can technically be the spiritual fourth movie of this because it does feel like the same universe, even with the different directors. So,
no, it totally works. It's that's why it's fun to go back and check these out, and that's why I'm sort of doing them, not following up or having. And I'm sorry, Kat, you have to put up with this as much as I do, and so it's just fun to go back and check it out and see how we felt about them at the time. How we feel about them now, and it's interesting to hear. But you're right that it is sort of that end of an era and a shift of career, a phase, if you will. This was the end of Quentin Tarantino phase 1.
Yeah, good way to put it.
I have to wonder. I'm not saying that this is a movie of its time, but I'm wondering if scores would be higher, and maybe I score the movie higher because of the time I saw it first and when it first came out. And just kind of my attachment to where the movie takes place, and kind of that world. So I wonder if that has a bearing at all. So it's interesting that Kat saw it the way she saw it and it landed the way it landed on her. I wonder if other people, if their very first watch of Jackie Brown is in 2022, if they feel kind of the same way.
I don't think my first watch of it was very dissimilar from Cats, to be
Pretty
honest
close.
with you. It was pretty close because it wasn't what I wanted or expected. Not saying like Cat went into it going, "Oh, I need this supercharged Tarantino," but I think that was definitely that box office number that you read for us probably had a lot to do with, how it was marketed, because it was marketed like another Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, it was.
Samuel L. popping off one-liners, bullets going across the screen, and that's not what it was.
Yeah. No, that's and that way, like the original trailer for it, when she sort of jumps into frame and she presses the buzzer and it's like Jackie Brown, and it's like that's not even in the damn movie.
Yeah.
It was just filmed specifically for the trailer, and it
They
made
used to
it
do
look.
that all the time back then, though. Yeah.
And actually, in 1997, $39 million gross on a $12 million spend was actually really good.
Oh no, for sure, it definitely was. I think as a follow up to a movie that was up for multiple Oscars, I think that they were.
Yeah.
I don't even remember what the release schedule was like for Jackie Brown, if it got a lot of theaters or not, because it was, it was a very low budget movie.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of that probably is residual, right? A lot of everybody went to see it just because of Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs.
Probably, yeah.
Well, they sure as hell didn't look it up on the internet.
No, they did not.
Dial up your Elmer Leonard fans too, who had just seen Get Shorty a couple years before, which was great.
So as far as adaptation, writing, adapting to screen, writing to screen, Get Shorty and Jackie Brown might be the most faithful of the Elmore Leonard books. I think so.
Even more than Out of Sight?
No, I think so.
Okay.
Huh.
I would say Get Shorty and
I think Leonard books
pretty faithful.
Leonard books lend themselves really well for like screen adaptations. Yeah. I think a lot of them do. I remember thinking that Midnight Run was an Elmore Leonard book because it had all your players in it. It had Charles Grodin, De Niro, it had Dennis Farina, but it wasn't really an Elmore Leonard book. And I was surprised because it plays out like one, with the exception of the buddy cop road trip part of it. But I just remember thinking, this got to be an Elmore Leonard book. It's just playing out.
Mm-hmm. All right. Are we ready?
Ready, Freddy.
Go to the chat real quick.
Gundle Whittlebaum, my old Vancouver friend. It's amazing what Tarantino can accomplish when someone else writes his characters. Oh, God bless Elmore.
Oh, I don't know. I think Tarantino does just fine writing characters.
Gundle and I have a little bit of a battle about two directors. One of them is Tarantino, and the other one is... who directed The Thin Red Line?
Terrence Malick.
Yes, and he likes Terrence Malick. And so we're just two people who aren't compatible at all because he likes Terrence Malick.
Yeah, that's fire and ice right there.
Big Daddy O John B, nice to see you on the channel, bud. Hey guys, how's it going? What films are you discussing tonight? We were discussing Jackie Brown. We didn't swear once. Big Daddy John B says, following you guys series, I can't believe how many Quentin Tarantino films I've not seen. Well, to be fair, to be completely honest with you, Big Daddy O, we are taking a few detours along the way. We started with 4 Rooms. We are going to do Destiny Turns on the Radio. We did cover Reservoir Dogs. We're doing True Romance.
Natural Born Killers.
Natural Born Killers is in there. Desperado is going to cap off the whole thing. So we're just going on a... Sorry?
From Dusk Till Dawn is in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dusk Till Dawn is in there. Yep. And so, we're going all around the place. And so not necessarily all the ones he directed, but certainly the ones that he's been a part of, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
Steve, you want to take this one?
Sure. Gundle Wintelbaum says, I've read every Elmore Leonard book. Jackie Brown is one of the most faithful. Get Shorty might be the most faithful, but the feeling of Jackie Brown is 100% on point. Yeah, I agree. I think I'm right there with you.
Nice.
Cool.
See, I didn't feel qualified. I've never read an Elmore Leonard book.
I did hear the follow up to Get Shorty, Be Cool. I saw the movie. Well, I actually turned it off halfway. It was so bad. But
Yeah, it was a bad movie.
bad.
You don't like Dwayne Johnson?
He was barely in it from what I remember. But
No, it's true. Well, the first half, yeah, no. But was that actually a book or was that just a movie sequel?
I think it was a book. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was just a shithole of a movie. Yeah.
Big Daddy-O John B says, I gotta check this one out. Looks good. By the looks of it, it had really good cast. Yes, yes,
awesome.
indeed. And
Very
people
well
that you
acted.
don't expect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess, right, and again, because of the resurgence of Robert Forster and Pam Grier being in things like Ghosts of Mars, of all things that I'm going to bring up, but just like how she did sort of have somewhat of a resurgence in her career, they are more well-known actors than they would have been in 97. They had sort of dropped off the beaten path for the people who liked Pulp Fiction. The people who liked Robert Forster probably didn't really necessarily
Tarantino had a
go to
knack.
Tarantino flicks.
You know, he just had a knack for pulling these actors that he kind of you could almost see his while he's writing, he's like, okay, he's already has this like actor in mind, right? Like, this is perfect for this guy. I got to go get this gal. I'm gonna go get her.
He did it with Carradine. Yeah, he does it a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think with Robert Forster and Pam Grier, it was a little different than like John Travolta, who had only kind of fallen into obscurity for about 3 years,
Right.
3 or 4 years, whereas he's pulling these people out of the 70s pretty much.
Yeah, you're right.
Well, and the only one, like the only pre-Jackie Brown movie that I know about, and I haven't even seen it, is Medium Cool with Robert Forster, where he plays a photographer.
I don't think I saw that movie either.
I don't think
I think,
either.
yeah, and I've heard of it, and I was just like, I got to check out this old Robert Forster flick, but I've never come across it or sought it out sufficiently. Big Daddy-O says, I'm more familiar with his more modern movies like Kill Bill, Grindhouse, Death Proof, Inglourious Bastards, Django Unchained, and The Hateful Eight. Yeah, and Once Upon a Time. Have you seen Once Upon a Time, Big Daddy-O? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is a treat.
I
But
know
we'll
you
get
guys
there.
love that movie. I'm the odd man out. I think that's one of his weaker films.
That's okay. You should come back and we can argue about it.
Well, we'll definitely do that.
Big Daddy-O John B says, I think From Dusk Till Dawn was the first film of his that I had seen. Granted, he only wrote the screenplay, but it still a great movie of his. Absolutely. Robert Rodriguez. Yeah, no, he directed it.
A lot of people say Tarantino directed the first half, which
I've heard that
seems
too.
like he did.
Yeah,
But I don't know if he's ever confirmed that.
That's
But
true, but that's been floating around for a long time. I think that's probably true.
And John B with a fun fact: Quentin Tarantino was a special guest director for Sin City.
So
Yeah,
if we combine the Sin City and the Four Rooms and the first half of From Dusk Till Dawn, that means he's made at least 12 movies now.
well, if you guys can do half bullets, he can do half movies. He's allowed the fractions.
didn't he do CSI episodes too?
And an episode of ER.
He did.
Yeah.
He did the season finale.
Yeah.
Oh, Big Daddy said he still hasn't seen Once Upon a Time.
You got a bit of time. It's in the back 9 of our Tarantino retrospective, so you got plenty of time. I would recommend it.
I as much as I don't think it's one of Tarantino's strongest films, it's definitely worth a watch. I mean, saying it's not one of Tarantino's strongest films is still saying it's a fabulous movie. And it's definitely worth watching.
Big Daddy-O John B, I will make you a promise that by the time we get to the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood discussion, I will have finished the novelization. So I will read the book. I know, I never read books. Anyway.
Liar.
Big Daddy-O.
It's like that.
I heard it was good, though. Probably check it out sometime. Yeah.
Okay.
Book reports. I think the only, John B continues, I think the only classic Tarantino movie I've seen is Pulp Fiction, which is probably the movie he's most known for, and for good reason. It was a great film.
It was, but I actually prefer Reservoir Dogs. I think it's a better movie. But yeah, I think that's what the movie he's most known for is definitely Pulp Fiction.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, as Kat said, she gave it 7. So did I. I don't know. I'm leaning towards Pulp Fiction being better. Melvin deeply asking personal questions. How is your Tourette's?
Tourette's? Is that what you're trying to say?
Seems.
He follows up saying Reservoir Dogs is his favorite, Pulp Fiction second, probably Django third. Really didn't like Hateful Eight. Jackie Brown I thought was so-so. Once Upon a Hollywood is the worst film ever made.
Way to go, Melvin.
I don't think it's the worst film ever made, but it's one of for me it's one of his weakest films.
I definitely have
Although,
Django. Django's in the far back 9 for me. I'm not a fan of Django, and
I wasn't a huge fan of Django either. I think it's a pretty looking film, but I don't know.
it doesn't work for me.
For the same way, for the kind of the same reason. I think Hateful Eight's a beautifully shot movie.
I love the Hateful Eight. I love that movie.
See, and
I want to come back and talk about that one with you guys if
Absolutely.
I can put in a bid for it because I love that movie.
you're more than welcome. I'm going to have to watch it.
Oh man, it's yeah.
You know, Netflix has the
miniseries.
Into 4. I watched it because there's so much. There's almost like an hour extra added. It's a really fun way to watch it if you've seen it already as many times as I've seen it. Which
You know
I
what?
used to
I'll
put
probably
that
watch
movie
it
on
that
every night.
way to get ready for our retrospective for our review. I'll watch it that way because I've been meaning to do that. So that sounds like a fun way to watch.
Damn C. How are you, sir? I'll see you in the future. Are you going to review the interview when Tarantino gets angry with the reporter and refuses to answer questions? That was my favorite Tarantino flick. Now,
Which time?
what I am hoping to do is to be able to get, when we get to Kill Bill, I do want to see if I can get that interview clip and put it in so that we can just say, because it's fun, Janet.
Or is he talking about the I'm shutting your butt down?
Yeah, no, I'm good with that one too. Like,
Yeah.
oh my stars, we should do a review just on the interviews.
Let's pull those clips. We'll pull
Yeah.
those because those are
Those are the best.
That is also, those are my favorite movies as well, Dempsey. Big Daddy O John B says, I love Tarantino's reactions to Dempsey when the reporters ask dumb questions. He's a man after my own heart. Well, yeah. Although he does have some cringe ones. When he was promoting Django on BET.
Oh God.
That was kind of
When
like
he's trying to sound like
urban.
he's trying to sound like Samuel L. Jackson, we'll say.
Yeah.
Oh, it's hard to watch. It's
But
hard
also-
to watch.
It's also interesting because I saw, because obviously my algorithms are all leaning towards Tarantino now. I saw an interview with Samuel L. Jackson about how Quentin Tarantino uses the N-word so much, and it's like it's impossible for him to be racist. The most intelligent character in most
In
of
the
his
room
films
is always
me.
I
So
love
I
that.
don't know how that guy's racist.
right.
Yeah, that sums it up perfectly. He's just like, my character's always the smartest man in the room. Yeah, yeah.
So he is a man after my own heart. Be Cool's whole point is how hard sequels are. Really? I would recommend rewatching Be Cool, knowing that the book and film are both purposefully tongue-in-cheek, kind of like The Matrix 4.
Well, I'm glad
Is
Be
that
Cool.
really true? Or are you just trying to make that?
I'm glad Be Cool made its point by being a total piece of crap.
Right.
It risked its own quality to get a point across.
Because I don't know if that's really real.
That is the running theme throughout that movie, though, talking about how hard it is to make comebacks and sequels.
Yeah.
Well, they definitely showed us that it's possible because that one's bad.
Well, yeah, I will, Gondola, I'll take your word for it and revisit Be Cool. I will do it. Probably means I'm going to have to watch Get Shorty again as well, which is, added bonus. Melvin says that was the same reporter who pissed off Robert Downey Jr.
Yep.
When he kept asking questions about his dad.
That guy's a sleaze bag.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah,
That
he's
guy's
the
an
guy
asshole.
that's a British guy who's like asking Robert Downey Jr. about his drug problems when he's trying to promote the Avengers. It's like, what are you doing, dude? Like, know the room.
Yeah.
You're in.
Big Daddy says, when I seen Once Upon a Time in Hollywood trailer, I didn't think I'd like it as at
He didn't think he'd like it, as it seems so different from his other movies. I can
Thank you.
definitely see why some people didn't like it as much as his others, but I still think it's still worth a watch.
It is worth a watch. It's really it's a really well shot film. The acting in it is superb.
It was up for Best Picture, was it not? Not that I care about the Academy Awards, but I think it was up for Best Picture. So somebody liked it.
Yeah, lots of people liked it. Like I said, I'm in the minority that just didn't think it was all that strong.
I have sort of a visceral response to it, almost akin to, in a different direction, to the same way I felt walking out of the theater after Inglourious Bastards, and it surprised me on all levels, and it made me walk away feeling better than I had felt walking out of a movie in a long time.
Both of those movies take historical revenge porn.
And I will share my thoughts on that movie when we get to it.
Yeah, we can't talk about it. No spoilers until we decide that we're having spoilers.
Right. So, and that's it. That's it for the chat.
I think this is the first review we've done where we actually didn't talk about what the plot of the movie was.
Yeah, we didn't walk through the movie. I liked it. It was good.
That's Cinema Gulp's reputation right there. People are like, what was it about?
Yeah. Those were fun though.
Those are fun. But this was fun. It was cool to just kind of freeform and talk about what we liked and about the movie, and it was great to have Cinema Gulp on the show and come back for whenever you like, whichever movie you think.
Yes, Scotty, tell us, what are we doing next week?
Next week is going to be the Ridley Scott directed, Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette, James. Sorry,
Tony Scott.
Tony Scott. Did I say Ridley?
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Which one is it?
The dead one. The dead one directed it.
Which movie is it?
Too much? Sorry. True Romance.
Yeah, I have to find that one. I haven't seen that yet either.
He died 10 years ago this month, by the way.
That in tragic
Tony
story.
Scott,
I always thought it
10
was
years.
very much. We'll discuss all of the ins and outs of the untimely demise of Tony Scott next week. But yeah, that's the one.
I can't wait to watch that one. True Romance has always been in my top 3 favorite films of all time.
Oh
You
my!
definitely have to join us next Wednesday.
I will still kind of be out of town, but I will be listening for sure.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but thank you, because that
True
movie
Romance is
that's
a
work of art.
special place in my heart. So
Yeah.
I love that movie.
Well, you could do for your weekend gulp like a True Romance thing next weekend as a companion piece to our review of it next week.
Maybe we will. We put out years ago, like 2016 or 17, we did a True Romance retrospective review thing. But
I'll have to check that out.
That's buried in the archives.
Oh, is it? It's under a stack of sheets.
So,
Okay.
who would like to plug all their channels?
Well, definitely, Cinema Gulp. Thanks for joining us, and you're welcome back anytime, as you well know. Anything you want to shout out or?
Well, I'm enjoying when we have time to do it. Weekly gulps with Scotty, who is kind of our resident co-host on the weekly gulp, unless he has nothing he wants to talk about. But we just put out our Stranger Things binge drinking sleepover. So if you get a chance, check that out. We review the whole show from Mike's basement. And we even take a little dip into the upside down towards the end.
Oh wow! I think I'm gonna like the video better than I'm just not gonna watch the show.
That's okay.
Okay, yeah, no, spoil me.
Go on and click the thumbs up and go get off if you want.
It's usually how it works.
Algorithm. But thanks for having me on, guys. I love this movie. I love this movie. I'm glad I got to talk about it on your show because I've never really talked about it on our channel. So it's awesome.
Thanks, man.
Awesome.
Thank you. And Kat, watch it again. Watch it 5 times and you'll like it as much as I do.
Then you can hang out with it.
You should watch it every July 13th.
All right, I think that'll do it, Scotty. What do you think?
I don't know. Do you have anything to plug? Do we have anything to plug? We're on our channel.
Yeah, we'll be here next Wednesday at 5. I still host the Unifying Force on the Virtual Cantina Network every second and fourth Sunday of the month at 8 a.m. Pacific. And yeah, go check out our old videos. We got our Martinis, Gadgets, and Guns series is there. We have our Thor: Love and Thunder spoiler recap review is recently up there.
And then I guess also go check out Tim's talk. The last 3 weeks, we hung out and talked with a great group of people about the last 3 episodes of The Boys. I know that he was doing a review for the season. You should check that out over at Tim's talk. It was a lot of fun.
We were on also with the guy in the chat, Big John Daddio, with the Kenobi series on Tim's talk as well. We went through that whole thing.
Nice.
Awesome.
Was I
Okay.
there for that? No.
So I think that'll do it for us for our Jackie Brown retrospective. For Cinema
Are you-
Cult, Catherine and Scotty R37, I'm Steve Foley. Have a great day, everybody.